The arrival. Michael adjusted his glasses as the sleek, silver vessel touched down in the sprawling fields of the Nevada desert. The world held its breath, watching through screens and satellites. Beside him, Dr. Elias Ford, a linguist, shuffled his notes nervously. "Quite the crowd," Michael murmured, noting the swarm of media and military personnel cordoning off the landing site. Elias nodded, his eyes fixed on the alien craft. Imagine the stories it could tell. The hatch of the vessel opened with a silent grace, and a figure emerged, its limbs slender and movements fluid under the bright Earth sun. Lyra, as they would soon learn her name, stepped forward. Her skin shimmered like the surface of a pond at sunrise, catching the light in dazzling patterns. Michael stepped forward as the designated anthropologist, with Elias close behind. The military personnel tensed, but the alien's demeanor suggested curiosity rather than threat. "Welcome to Earth," Michael called out, his voice broadcasted loud enough for her to hear. Lyra tilted her head, a universal sign of puzzlement. She responded in a melodic tone, the words indecipherable but clearly questioning. Elias whispered into a recording device, capturing her voice for analysis. "I'll need to work fast on this," he muttered. Michael tried again, this time offering a slow, deliberate wave, one of the human race's simplest gestures of peace. Intrigued, Lyra mimicked the wave, her thin fingers fluttering. A murmur ran through the crowd as they witnessed this first, peaceful exchange. "Do you understand me?" Michael asked slowly, enunciating each word. Lyra responded again, her voice a cascade of unknown syllables, but she pointed at her ear and then at Michael, a gesture they took for understanding. Elias stepped up, speaking into a portable translation device. "We are here to learn from each other," he said, the machine converting his words into a rough approximation of Lyra's language. Lyra's eyes widened with understanding, and she nodded enthusiastically, repeating the gesture she had just learned. "Seems we're making progress," Elias said with a grin. Lyra then spoke, her voice melodic and fluid, the device capturing and converting her words. "I am called Lyra," the device translated, albeit with a slight delay and a mechanical tone. "I'm Michael, and this is Elias," Michael replied, pointing to Elias and then himself. The dialogue, simple as it was, broke the initial barrier of total unfamiliarity. Lyra's eagerness to communicate became evident when she took a device from her garment, a similar technology to Elias's translator, and held it out towards them. "This is an extraordinary moment," Elias commented, his voice barely above a whisper as he recorded everything. "Yes," Michael agreed, looking around at the assembly of humanity represented in the desert. "And it's just the beginning." Lyra began to walk, gesturing for them to follow. She led them around her vessel, pointing at various symbols and components, each movement graceful and measured. Michael and Elias exchanged notes and observations, their excitement palpable as they documented the first physical tour of an alien craft given by an alien herself. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the desert, the trio stood beside the vessel, the first chapter of their interspecies friendship just beginning. Michael felt a profound sense of duty and awe. This was more than a historic moment. It was a bridge between worlds, crafted not from stone or steel, but from mutual curiosity and the universal desire to understand and be understood. Chapter 2. Learning Curves. The following morning found Michael and Elias at a government facility, accompanied by Dr. Samuel Turner, a cultural anthropologist specializing in nonverbal communication. They were there to facilitate a more structured exchange of ideas with Lyra. The room was arranged to be as inviting as possible, with images of Earth landscapes and snippets of human culture displayed on screens around the room. Lyra entered, her steps silent on the soft carpet, her eyes scanning the curated images with visible interest. Michael greeted her with a nod, which she returned with a now familiar grace. "Good morning, Lyra," Michael began, gesturing to the seats. "We thought today we could share more about our world, and you could tell us about yours." Lyra sat, her posture perfect, her attention turned to Samuel, who introduced himself through the translator. "I study how beings understand each other without words," he explained, his tone gentle and inviting. Fascinated, Lyra responded, "Many in my world communicate through thoughts. Your ways are different." Elias quickly noted this down, exchanging a glance with Samuel. "Could you show us?" Samuel asked. With a nod, Lyra closed her eyes briefly, then opened them, her gaze intense. The air around her seemed to shimmer subtly. Michael felt a warmth, a sense of welcome that didn't need words to be understood. "It's like emotion, but clearer," Samuel murmured, clearly impressed. "Thank you, Lyra." Eager to keep the exchange going, Michael presented a tablet with images of Earth's art, paintings, sculptures, and performances. Lyra touched each picture, her device translating her questions. "What do these colors mean to you?" she asked, pointing at a vibrant abstract painting. Michael explained the concept of art as an expression of human emotion and creativity. Lyra listened intently, her device occasionally chirping as it struggled to keep up with the nuances of human language. "This is how we share what we feel inside," Elias added, showing her a video of a ballet. "Each movement tells a part of a story." Lyra seemed intrigued by the fluidity of the dance, comparing it to her people's thought-sharing. "We also tell stories," she said. "We use colors in the air, not fixed like your paintings." Samuel, always fascinated by new forms of communication, asked her to describe this more. As she explained, using gestures and her limited words, the trio watched, their minds racing with the possibilities of such a medium. "Perhaps tomorrow you could show us this color storytelling?" Samuel suggested. Lyra agreed, and the session moved on to other human experiences. Michael showed her a map of Earth, explaining different climates and geographical features. Lyra was particularly interested in the concept of oceans, having come from a planet with vast dry lands and minimal water. "Our planet is mostly covered in water," Michael explained, pointing to the blue on the globe. "It's vital for our survival and a big part of our culture." Lyra's curiosity was piqued. "May I see this ocean?" she asked. Michael and Elias exchanged a look, both understanding the importance of her request. "We can arrange that," Michael said, smiling. As the session wrapped up, the group stood together, a sense of accomplishment among them. They had begun to bridge the vast expanse between their cultures, one question and one answer at a time. "Today was good," Lyra said as she stood to leave, her voice warm through the translator. "Yes, very good," Samuel agreed, his smile broad. "See you tomorrow, Lyra." As she left, the men remained, discussing plans for the ocean visit. The task was daunting but thrilling. They were not just sharing a planet, but sharing a universe, and every step forward was a step into uncharted territory. Chapter 3: Cultural Exchange. The next morning, Michael, Elias, and Samuel, along with Dr. Henry Cho, an expert in marine biology, drove with Lyra to the California coast. The sun cast a golden glow over the sea, waves gently lapping at the shore, a perfect setting for another day of interspecies learning. As they walked along the beach, Lyra was visibly fascinated, her eyes reflecting the vast expanse of the ocean. Henry, carrying a small collection of marine specimens in portable tanks, was eager to explain his work. "This," he said, pointing to a starfish in one of the tanks, "is part of our marine biodiversity. Each creature plays a role in the ecosystem." Lyra leaned closer, observing the starfish move its arms. Through her translator, she asked, "Is it communicating?" Henry chuckled softly. "Not in the way we're communicating now, but it senses its environment through touch and chemicals in the water." Fascinated, Lyra touched the glass, her fingers tracing the starfish's slow movements. "Amazing," she murmured. Michael and Elias set up a small demonstration area right on the sand, where they displayed more images and samples of marine life, explaining concepts like the food chain, coral reef communities, and the impact of human activities on oceans. Lyra listened intently, occasionally asking pointed questions that Henry answered with enthusiasm. Samuel, observing the interactions, noted, "It's not just about showing her our world, but understanding her perception of it." Elias, with a nod, added, "Every question she asks opens up a new way of seeing our own planet." As the day progressed, they introduced Lyra to basic oceanographic equipment. Michael demonstrated a water sampling tool, explaining how scientists measure salinity and temperature to study ocean currents. "Would you like to try?" Michael offered the tool to Lyra, who took it with a careful hand. With guidance, she collected a water sample, the process seemingly mundane to the humans but clearly novel to her. "You study water like it's a living thing," she observed. "It is, in a way," Henry responded. "It's the lifeblood of our planet." The afternoon waned, and Samuel suggested they all share a meal on the beach. As they ate, Lyra tried various Earth foods, her reactions ranging from delight to polite bewilderment. "This," Michael said, handing her a piece of seaweed, "is also from the ocean. It's eaten in many cultures around the world." Lyra tasted it, her face thoughtful. "It carries the ocean's taste," she decided, which made Henry laugh. "Yes, exactly." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Lyra stood, facing the ocean. "Your world is beautiful," she said. "Different, but beautiful." Michael joined her, looking out over the water. "And yet, today I've seen it through your eyes, and it seems even more so." Lyra turned to him, her expression serious yet gentle. "And I understand more about your respect for life, in all its forms." The group packed up as dusk settled, the air filled with the salty tang of the sea and a sense of quiet satisfaction. They had not only shown Lyra a part of their world, but had deepened their own appreciation for it through her unique perspective. As they drove back, the car filled with talk of future excursions and what they might explore next. Each man felt a renewed sense of purpose. This exchange was more than scientific. It was a profound meeting of minds and worlds, proving that understanding was not bound by the stars, but was possible wherever curiosity met knowledge on common ground. Chapter 4. Intimate Discoveries. Back at the facility, the focus shifted towards deeper interpersonal exchanges. Michael, Elias, and Dr. John Becker, a psychologist specializing in emotional intelligence, prepared for a session designed to explore emotional expressions and physical interactions among species. Lyra arrived, her demeanor curious as always, her gaze lingering on the new face in the room. "Good morning, Lyra," John greeted, his tone warm. "Today, we're going to talk about how we express feelings in human ways, which might be very different from your methods." Lyra nodded, her translator humming softly. "I am eager to learn about this," she responded. John began by explaining the basic human emotions: happiness, sadness, anger, and surprise, and the facial expressions associated with each. He demonstrated, his face contorting into different expressions, causing Elias to chuckle at the exaggeration. Lyra watched intently, her head tilting as she absorbed the information. "You use your face a lot," she observed, her tone a mix of amusement and intrigue. "Yes, and we also use our bodies to show how we feel," Michael added, standing to demonstrate a posture of confidence versus one of sadness. Lyra mimicked him, her movements slightly awkward but earnest. "Like this?" she asked, her body slumping. "Exactly," John said, pleased. "Now, how would you express sadness in your culture?" "Our colors dim," Lyra explained, touching a panel on her arm that faintly changed hues to a darker shade. Fascinated, The men noted this unique method of communication. Elias asked, "Do you use touch among your people?" "It is not common," Lyra replied, "but I am learning its importance here." John suggested a simple exercise. "Would you be comfortable if we showed you some friendly, comforting touches that humans use?" With a nod from Lyra, Michael stepped forward and demonstrated a gentle pat on the back and a supportive arm around the shoulders. Lyra's initial hesitation gave way to a tentative acceptance, and she attempted the gestures on Elias, causing a moment of laughter when her touch was too light. "Now, humans also express affection through hugs," John explained. "It's a way of showing care." "May I try this hug?" Lyra asked, looking between the men. John nodded, and Michael volunteered, stepping forward with open arms. Lyra embraced him awkwardly at first, then with more confidence as she adjusted to the pressure and warmth. "This feels comforting," she admitted, stepping back with a thoughtful expression. Encouraged by the progress, John introduced the concept of hand-holding, explaining its significance in human relationships. Michael and Elias demonstrated, hands clasped together briefly. "Would you like to try?" Elias offered his hand to Lyra. After a moment of hesitation, Lyra placed her hand in Elias's. Her surprise was palpable when she felt the warmth, her own hand slightly cooler to the touch. "It's quite warm," she commented, her voice carrying a note of wonder. "Yes, warmth is a big part of human touch," Elias explained, releasing her hand gently. As the session drew to a close, John summarized their explorations. Today was about understanding each other's ways of expressing emotion. It seems simple, but it's foundational to how we connect as beings. Lyra agreed, her voice reflective. "I see now how touch and expressions can convey so much. We have learned much about your expressions today." As they prepared to leave, Michael felt a sense of accomplishment. They had not only shared knowledge, but had begun to bridge the gap between human and alien emotional expressions. Lyra's engagement and openness to learning and experiencing human ways of communication promised more profound exchanges in the days to come. Chapter 5. Emotional Boundaries. In the facility's newly designated Cultural Exchange Room, Dr. Alex Bennett, a social anthropologist, joined Michael, Elias, and Lyra for a session focused on exploring the concept of emotional and romantic relationships among humans. The room was set up with comfortable seating to facilitate a relaxed and open discussion. "Good morning, Lyra," Alex began, extending a friendly smile. "Today we're going to discuss a very human aspect of our lives, romantic relationships and how we express love and commitment." Lyra's expression showed keen interest. "I have noticed humans speak of love often," she remarked. "It is complex." "Yes, it can be," Alex agreed, then turned to Elias and Michael. "Maybe you two can share personal stories to illustrate?" Elias nodded, sharing a brief story about his grandparents' long and happy marriage, emphasizing the emotional bonds that strengthened over time. Michael followed with a description of modern dating practices, highlighting the diversity of relationships in human society. Lyra listened intently, occasionally asking for clarifications. "So, love can be chosen or felt unexpectedly?" she queried, grappling with the concept. "Exactly," Michael responded. "It's often about a deep connection and choosing someone to share life's experiences with." Intrigued, Lyra reflected on her own culture's practices, which were more communal and less focused on individual emotional bonds. "We connect for the purpose of unity and progress, not emotional fulfillment." Alex, taking notes, found this point particularly interesting. Human love also seeks to promote unity and progress, but through personal happiness and mutual support. It's believed to contribute to overall societal health. "I see," Lyra said, nodding slowly. "And how do you express this love?" Michael decided to demonstrate some typical gestures associated with romantic affection. He explained the significance of each, holding hands, giving gifts, and sharing activities. Elias chimed in with explanations about public and private expressions of affection. "Do you have something similar in your interactions?" Alex asked, curious about any parallels. Lyra thought for a moment. "We do tasks together to achieve better results for the community. It is cooperative, not affectionate." The conversation shifted to the role of emotional expressions in maintaining relationships. Michael discussed the importance of communication, both verbal and non-verbal, in navigating the complexities of human emotions. "Understanding and respecting each other's feelings are crucial," he explained. "It's about empathy and support." Lyra absorbed this, then said, "Empathy. Feeling with others. This is new to us." Seeing an opportunity for a practical demonstration, Alex guided Lyra through a simple empathy exercise. He presented a scenario and asked her how she might feel and react if she were in a human's place. Lyra participated thoughtfully, attempting to put herself in the emotional context provided. "It is challenging but enlightening to consider such perspectives," she acknowledged. As the session concluded, Alex summarized the key points they had covered, emphasizing the variety and depth of human emotional experiences. Lyra thanked them for the insights, expressing appreciation for the complexities of human relationships. "Today's discussion has broadened my understanding significantly," she concluded, her tone reflective of the day's emotional depth. Michael, Elias, and Alex exchanged pleased looks. They had not only shared aspects of human culture, but had begun to understand Lyra's perspective better, recognizing the vast differences and intriguing similarities in their emotional landscapes. As they left the room, the air was thick with thoughts of future sessions, each promising further exploration of the rich tapestry that formed human and alien interactions. Chapter 6. Inside Me. Are you serious? The next day's session was set up with a focus on deeper human experiences, particularly those involving more intimate or profound emotions. Michael, joined by Dr. Richard Lee, a specialist in human intimacy and relationships, prepared to navigate this delicate topic with Lyra. The goal was to expand her understanding of human closeness and intimacy while respecting her culture's different norms. "Welcome back, Lyra," Richard greeted warmly as she entered the room. "Today, we plan to explore some of the more personal aspects of human relationships." Lyra nodded, her expression showing a mix of curiosity and caution. "I am ready to learn, though I understand these topics are very private among humans." "That's right," Michael said. "But we believe sharing this can help us understand each other better on a deeper level." Richard began by explaining the concept of intimacy in human terms, describing it as a bond that extends beyond physical closeness to include deep emotional connections. "Intimacy involves sharing parts of oneself that are not usually exposed to the public," Richard explained, using careful language to respect Lyra's different social norms. "This includes thoughts, feelings, and physical expressions." Lyra listened intently. Then, with a puzzled look, she asked, "Physical expressions? Like touching?" "Yes, but more private and significant," Michael intervened, realizing the sensitivity of the topic. "For example, kissing is a common expression of affection and love between humans." Lyra's eyes widened in surprise. "Kissing? I have seen this. Lips touching lips, correct?" "Exactly," Richard confirmed. "It's a very personal way to express love and affection." The discussion then shifted to the concept of making love, a topic that both Michael and Richard approached with careful consideration of Lyra's unfamiliarity with such human practices. When two people love each other, they sometimes choose to connect in the most intimate way, through making love, Richard explained gently. "It's a physical union, but also deeply emotional." Lyra's curiosity piqued, her voice tinged with incredulity. And this happens inside the human body? Yes, it's a close and private expression of love, Michael added, noting her astonishment. Lyra paused, processing the information. After a moment, she responded with the words that had been puzzling her since the topic began. Inside me. Are you serious? Michael and Richard exchanged a glance, realizing the impact of their explanations. Yes, but it's about mutual respect and consent, Richard quickly added, emphasizing the importance of emotional readiness and mutual agreement. Lyra nodded slowly. It is very different from us, but I see the beauty in such closeness. It must create strong bonds. It does, Michael replied. And it's not just physical. It's about being vulnerable with someone else and sharing completely with them. The rest of the session was spent discussing other forms of emotional sharing, like verbal expressions of love, commitment ceremonies, and the concept of family. Lyra absorbed it all, her understanding of human culture deepening. As the session ended, Richard summed up the day. Today, we've shared some of the most private aspects of human life. We appreciate your openness and respect, Lyra. Lyra thanked them, her tone sincere. Thank you for trusting me with this knowledge. I am learning more than I imagined about humans. As they left the room, both Michael and Richard felt a profound sense of accomplishment. They had navigated a complex topic with sensitivity and had opened up a new level of dialogue with Lyra, one that spoke to the very core of human emotional experience. Chapter 7. Night of Wonder. The interaction so far had profoundly affected everyone involved, especially Lyra, who expressed a desire to experience more about human emotional connections firsthand. Michael, together with Dr. Kevin Hart, a psychologist specializing in emotional therapy, and Elias, planned an evening that would encompass a breadth of human experiences tailored to Lyra's growing curiosity. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden hue over the city, the group met in a quiet, private garden that the facility had arranged for their use, providing a serene setting. Tonight, we thought we'd share some human experiences that involve our senses and emotions, Kevin began, his voice calm and inviting. It's more about feeling than explaining. Lyra nodded, her luminous eyes reflecting the soft lights strung above the garden. I am ready, she said, her voice steady yet full of anticipation. The evening started with music. Elias played several classical pieces on a portable speaker, explaining how music could evoke different emotions. Lyra listened, her face alight with interest, occasionally closing her eyes to better absorb the melodies. This piece is called Clair de Lune, Elias said softly as the delicate notes of Debussy's piano work filled the air. It's about capturing the light of the moon. It feels reflective, almost like water, Lyra observed, her voice a whisper. Yes, many people find it calming and introspective, Michael added, pleased with her reaction. As the music continued, Kevin guided Lyra through a simple meditative exercise, asking her to describe her feelings and thoughts about each piece. Lyra engaged deeply, trying to express in words what she often felt through her own species' color expressions. After the music, the group shared a meal designed to introduce Lyra to a variety of tastes and textures from human cuisine. Each dish was chosen to represent different cultural heritages and the emotions they often invoke: comfort, joy, nostalgia. Lyra tasted each dish with curiosity, from a spicy Indian curry to a sweet Italian gelato. These flavors are very intense, she commented, her expression one of surprise and delight. It's another way we express and share our heritage and emotions, Michael explained. The night deepened, and Kevin introduced the final part of the evening, stargazing. They laid blankets on the grass, and Elias pointed out constellations and planets visible in the night sky. As we look at the stars, we often think about our place in the universe, Kevin said, handing Lyra a telescope. It's a way of connecting with something larger than ourselves. Lyra peered through the telescope, focusing on the moon's cratered surface. "It's beautiful," she murmured. "So distant yet so filled with light." "Yes, and though we are from different worlds, we share the same sky," Michael added, his voice soft. The evening concluded with a quiet reflection period where Lyra shared her thoughts. "I have felt many things tonight. Joy, curiosity, even a touch of sadness for the beauty that fades," she confessed. "It's more than I ever expected." Kevin nodded, understanding her emotional journey. "It's all part of being human, feeling deeply, living fully." As they packed up to leave, Lyra thanked each man for the evening. "Thank you for sharing your world, your hearts with me," she said genuinely. Michael, Elias, and Kevin felt a mixture of contentment and wistfulness as they walked back. The night had not only been about showing Lyra human experiences, but also about seeing their own world anew through her eyes, an exchange of wonders in the truest sense. Chapter 8. Farewell, or just the beginning. As the time for Lyra's departure drew near, the atmosphere at the facility was tinged with a blend of anticipation and melancholy. Michael, Elias, and Dr. Ted Barnes, a specialist in intercultural relations, prepared for their final session with Lyra, intending to reflect on what had been learned and to discuss the future. The room was set up with gifts from Earth for Lyra to take back to her people. Books, recordings of music, artworks, and scientific data, all symbols of the knowledge exchange that had taken place. "Good morning, Lyra," Ted greeted as she entered the room, his voice carrying a note of solemnity. "Today is a bittersweet day for us." Lyra nodded, her expression somber yet peaceful. "I have learned much from you. I am grateful." "As are we," Michael added, stepping forward with a small, beautifully bound book of Earth's poetry. "We hope you will carry this back as a token of our friendship and the emotional connections we've shared." Lyra accepted the book, touching its cover reverently. "Thank you, Michael. This means more than words." Elias then presented her with a digital device loaded with music and images from Earth. "So you can recall the sounds and sights of our world," he explained. "I will treasure it," Lyra replied, her voice tinged with emotion. Ted spoke next, his tone earnest. "Lyra, your visit has opened our eyes in many ways. We've seen our own culture through your questions and curiosity. It's been a profound learning experience for us as well." Lyra listened intently, then responded, "I too have grown. My understanding of emotion and connection, it's deeper now, thanks to you." The group then moved to a larger meeting area where a video link was set up for Lyra to speak to her own people, sharing her experiences. The men watched as Lyra spoke in her melodic language, her gestures expressive, her face occasionally turning to include her Earth friends in her narrative. As the transmission ended, Ted addressed the group. "We hope this is just the beginning of ongoing communication between our worlds. What we've started here can pave the way for a future of shared learning and exploration." Lyra agreed, her voice firm. "I will advocate for continued interaction. There is much we can learn from each other." As the time came for her departure, they walked with Lyra to the landing site where her spacecraft waited. The goodbyes were heartfelt, with handshakes and the human gesture of hugging, which Lyra now returned with equal warmth. "Remember us," Elias said, managing a smile despite the sadness in his eyes. "I will never forget," Lyra promised, stepping back toward her ship. Michael took a deep breath as he watched her ascend the ramp into the spacecraft. "Farewell, Lyra." "Until we meet again," she called out, her hand raised in farewell. The ship's engines hummed to life, and as it lifted off, disappearing into the blue sky, the men stood shoulder to shoulder, watching until it was no longer in sight. Back at the facility, as they debriefed, Ted proposed documenting their experiences and findings in a comprehensive report. "Let's ensure that this is indeed just the beginning." Michael and Elias nodded in agreement, their minds already racing with possibilities for the future. "This isn't the end," Michael said, a determined look crossing his face. "It's an invitation to a greater journey." As they left the meeting room, the seeds of future projects taking root, they felt a renewed sense of purpose. The exchange with Lyra had enriched their lives and promised a new horizon for human-alien relations, grounded in understanding, respect, and the universal quest for knowledge.